President Donald Trump has bombed 2 different sovereign nations in probably the most unprecedented brazen acts of American imperialism this country has ever seen. This is what I would say if I didn't know this country's history. On Christmas Day, America carried out a bombing of Nigeria, citing the need to stabilize the region against Islamic extremists who were targeting Christians. Shout out Nicki Minaj for helping to contribute to that. However, the reality is that Nigeria has somehow emerged as a target to the Christian right, and possibly even Israel as a political football. Reality we're dealing with. Quick addendum, I recorded this video early last week, and that was before the fatal shooting, we'll say for now, murder of Renee Good, but I'll come back to this in a second. And no, I don't think Kamala Harris would have bombed Nigeria on Christmas Day because of rumors on Facebook and Truth Social, nor do I think she went to Venezuela to capture a sitting president of a sovereign nation, regardless of how bad that president might have been. But
as Commander-in-Chief, I will ensure America always has the strongest, most lethal fighting force in the world.
I want to be clear and empathetic to the fact that the Trump administration and Project 2025 and right-wingers in general have a direct effect on the daily lives of a ton of people, even if it's just the psychological well-being of knowing the political environment we're currently living in. I know I'm not feeling good about it, so I'm sure other people aren't feeling good as well. However, it's important for the sake of future political action and current political education that we recognize that the current state of affairs only exists because the Democratic leadership that has been around this country for 50 years now has been complicit with so many of these things the Republican Party is doing. I said before that if Republicans are sitting at a dining room table eating babies, Democrats are in the kitchen putting them into pots.
Okay, so that gives you the main, context. He gives some other evidence of why he says what he says, but that's largely where he's at. I think we can respond to this first, and then we'll watch the Mark Lamont Hill one. Yeah,
I've been saying.
Oh, that's been your whole talking. That's been your whole talking point the whole time we've had this podcast. Yeah,
he's Ronald Reagan 2.0. He's even more Ronald Reagan 2.0. And I think that I think the more you peel back into what they're actually doing, it's even more smoke and mirror-y right now. So a frequent thing that happens is people are like, well, they're breaking the law. They're breaking the law now. They're doing things that are illegal. Like they say it released Epstein files. Like Congress passed a law and they're breaking the law. So they're actually not even breaking the laws. They're still arguing using old precedent and stuff that they're in line with. They're basically just
hacking,
taking all of this shit to court effectively, right? So their argument is they don't have to do that based on that was passed, the Transparency Act that was passed to release the Epstein files as an example, right? They're saying that act based on how it was written doesn't say that we have to release these files. There's a clause in it that says this take us to court. What they're getting on CNN and telling you is that, oh yeah, they can't fuck with me. I'm gonna do what I want. And then when they actually get into the actual hearings and that social cause, they're just no, well, we're invoking this actual statute from 1885 that whatever president passed, and we're gonna use that to do this or do this. They're playing a legalese game. They're doing Ronald Reagan shit. And even to FD's point, and I said this when we first talked about it, every U.S. president since 1910, I want to say, since 1910, because I remember having the conversation in real time, and I said every president since Reagan. It goes back much further than that. Since the early 1900s, I believe it's 1910, every sitting United States president has driven a regime change in a Latin American country.
Yeah, that's regular shit. Low key.
Every single one. I think extremely highly of Barack Obama's presidency. The stuff that Trump is doing in terms of Venezuela, Nigeria, Somalia, Syria, what we potentially be doing in Iraq looks a lot like Barry O shit in fucking Libya. You know what I mean? It looks a lot. It looks a lot like
is that the
United States. Gaddafi. It looks a lot like It looks a lot like Grenada with Clinton. It looks a lot like Peru and Nicaragua. And then even stuff from his economic policy looks just like Reagan. Even stuff from the way he's deploying troops and the civil unrest stuff. That feels very Reagan, right? That feels very late 80s, early 90s America during the Reagan and Bush administrations, the Rodney King stuff, the Rodney King riots, and all this kind of stuff. This is so in terms of what has actually happened, yes, it's very precedented. We're living in very precedented times. That shouldn't comfort anybody. That should be more sad than anything that we saw how bad Reagan was.
We know how this goes. Yeah.
And then we put Reagan 2.0 in there, and we were we're still dealing with how bad Reagan was. And now we just doubled that shit. It's that shouldn't make anybody feel better. But on the flip side of that, to FD's point, that in at least in that segment that we just played, he kind of talked about this. That doesn't mean that people can't feel apprehensive about if Trump pushes the waters, because I'm still waiting to see what that looks like. Right. So For example, the Greenland shit, right? The Greenland shit for me is a real who really the king moment, because every real power, like in the GOP leadership outside of his administration, has said, no, we're not doing that shit. That shit is stupid. The Senate Majority Leader has come out and said that is stupid. The Speaker has come out and said that's stupid. What's gonna happen? Because that's the thing with Trump, right? Up till now, the stuff that he's doing is stuff that the current like GOP power center has wanted to do anyway. Like, he's not doing anything. The way he's doing it is a little unorthodox, but he's not doing shit that they don't agree with, right?
Okay.
I want to see what happens when they have to come out and say, we actively don't disagree. We actively disagree with this, and what he does then. I want to have a who's really the king moment. We haven't yet had one.
If Greenland gets invaded, or whatever the equivalent would be,
yeah, whatever that
to his wishes, yeah, because I don't know, it might be softer than that, but just if any kind of takeover-ish imperialist kind of thing happens,
or any other example,
yeah. If he goes like, cool, the GOP is not on board with this. Generally, my little camp in the regime is fucking happening. If that happens, what reinterpretation does that present for you? Like, what does that change about your stance?
It means we're in slightly like less precedent at times, because even that's happened before. Yeah. Even that isn't new for a president, but like that's much less. Like right now, we're in a situation where like the things that he's doing that are like shocking people, like scaring people, are like very precedented. Yeah. Like again, the Venezuela shit is common.
I think to the point that you're making there, like it's all kind of a spectrum. You know what I mean? Like it's a frog in a pot kind of thing. So the less unprecedented shit gets, the worse it gets, because it's, all the way from utopia down to full dictatorship. There's a pretty clean spectrum across that. Yeah. So if it gets a little bit more unprecedented, that is significant, which I think is that's built into what you're saying. But I want to emphasize that.
And even stuff like I just looked at the comment, like Canada's making new friends now. Canada had a lot of new friends before NAFTA. You know what I mean? Like a lot of stuff that we think is just like, oh, this shit is like locked in, is like 40 years old. Like that's the thing I talk about with like Reagan. Like a lot of the shit that we think is like, oh, this is how it is. Or like another example, I was talking about how Trump got rid of grad plus loans, right? And my friends were like, how the fuck are people going to go to school? And I'm like, yeah, man, you almost wouldn't believe that grad plus loans didn't exist before 2007. like you know what I'm saying? Like a lot of the shit that we've just like. This is the show. We're in the right age
for that particular. Is there key context for that just particular example, which is that before 2007, were college costs comparable to the kind of landscape that exists now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. If you want to go to like real drops in like college costs, especially relative to wages, you'd have to go into pre-80s. But no, but the thing is like, yeah, but the thing is, I think a lot of people, especially like our usual us, like, and especially like us and like our usual audience, we're dealing with the set of circumstances where the world was one way in our like salient like thinking.
Yeah.
And we don't have the context of the fact that like shit was wildly different 15 years ago.
80s, yeah.
Shit was different in the 90s. So like I do think that we're living in very precedented times, but that's not a good thing either. Like, it's not great that we're living in precedented times. Sometimes precedented shit is fucking horrible.
Yeah, we've done horrible shit before.
Yeah,
there's precedents for that. Okay, so actually, you know what? Let's watch what Mark says, because I think this will give context for some of the stuff that I'm. Okay, so this is Mark, and both Ish and one other person are kind of giving their piece, disagreeing with him. For context, somebody said like, "Oh, they're debating with him, and they're not experts and whatever." I don't think that this is relevant here. My interpretation of this clip is that they're not arguing about the events that he's an expert on. They're asking him about those. He's telling those facts, and then they're talking about their lived experience of those realities and discussing their interpretation of them, which is what a conversation is supposed to be. If I ask you to bake a cake and then you make me the cake and I say, it's not quite my flavor, you don't go, I'm a master chef. Of course it's that's not how that works. Mark for all of his expertise, is not an expert on Ish's personal experience, which is what they're talking about in this clip.
Very different from U.S. government sending the militia to U.S. towns to kill U.S. people. I'm not talking about every president did bad shit. You got that. I'm not talking about Yemen and... The conversation was about Venezuela, though. We were talking about Venezuela. I was talking about Venezuela at the time. Oh, okay. That's what I'm saying. And people conflating a lot of things. I never said that... In fact, I said the opposite. I said Obama's not Trump. Right? You can say they're all fucked up, but there's different degrees of fucked upness. Trump is the worst. All I'm saying is he's not a new genre. Yeah. You know what I mean? They're all fucked up. Dangerous, Mark. No. I'm saying, but in the history of America, we have given blankets and smallpox to Native Americans. We've let black people die of diseases. We've enslaved people. We killed people. I'm not going to act like Donald Trump is the first person in the history of the United States Empire to be fucked up or genocidal or whatever. This particular thing he's doing right now, yes, it is unprecedented. But it's not a new genre. It's U.S. policy on steroids. That's what it is. That's all I'm saying. It is a new genre because we haven't seen a president in our lifetime inflict this domestically. So that is a new genre. Until you watch people drowning in Katrina and watch them not eat it. That's different. That was a lack of response to a catastrophe. Also horrible. He has taken an aggressive stance and put these people in American cities and have them getting their asses whipped and getting their rights violated on a day-to-day basis in a camera and nobody saying a fucking peep. That's why I say it's the worst iteration of a policy that has always been like, we are indifferent to the most vulnerable people here. It's a new genre, though, domestically. That's what I'm saying. It's a premium plus version. Yeah. We're saying the same shit, but I'm just thinking that the new genre is we've not seen this domestically. Like, I read an article yesterday, a lady from Maryland, born in Maryland. Fam got snatched from her family. She was in a detention camp for 25 days. My nigga, and they just let her out and was like, oh, bad. Go back. That's true. Trump is some other level of fucked upness. You know what I mean? My point is less to beat up on people who aren't Trump, and it's more just to remind people that this problem doesn't get fixed when Trump leaves. And you know what else is a little different? Like, we didn't see the figurehead actually just standing up and standing in the shit publicly. Like, not domestic. Like that's, even though they were doing shit, we never saw these motherfuckers like, yeah, I did that, and I'm gonna send them here, and I'm gonna fuck with you, and I'm gonna fuck, like, he doubling and tripling down to the American people in America. Exactly. I'm saying the average American who's not involved in international politics does not know the extent of what's happening over there. When this shit is at your front door, or your neighbor, or the next town over, it's different. So to a lot of people, this is their first time. You can hear about shit all day, but when it's like,
there's several elements that I'm curious of your thoughts on, but one of them is the troops. Yeah, the troops thing is like, because you talked about riots in the past and the way those have been conducted, and that felt like it made a good bit of sense to me. But the bravado and the communications around those, to our previous points around like how communication matters, seems a lot more brazen, and that does, among some other things, but that seems a bit different. Thoughts?
Yeah, I think Mark is taking a slightly different stance than I've taken in the past, and what FD is saying. I even said during this segment that I think that the way he's trying to smoke and mirror this is a little bit different. The way he's saying stuff is different versus what he's actually doing. So yes, I do think that his speech is different. Absolutely. To Mark's,
you think that matters?
Point,
I think it's maybe.
Yes and no.
Okay.
I think it matters in terms of, to FD's point, I do think that leadership should have a place and an onus to not make people feel apprehensive. So I do think that even if he's saying something and he doesn't follow through on it, that rhetoric can create like some short-term like apprehension with people that just creates a bad mental state for lots of people in the country. And I also think that you embolden and potentially legitimize people that are more on the fringes, and then the fringe becomes normalized. That's why, like, if you look at American policy, why the policy continues to move to the right post the 60s, I think a lot of that rhetoric drives that kind of thinking. So I think it matters. But I also think that that's not what people are talking about. They're talking about stuff like what the co-host on the Joe Budden podcast thing. They're saying that like this action, this thing that he did is different. They're not saying that his rhetoric could embolden followers. They're not saying that his rhetoric could embolden the fringes. They're saying that he's doing something right now that is different. Right.
Okay. Because one of the things in Mark Lamont Hill's stance that I'm a little bit the idea that he's not a new genre, because it's like we're like still in the first like 2 financial quarters of his presidency, and these things have happened, which aren't that unprecedented. I think I can agree with that. The language around them is quite unprecedented in sort of modern times.
Yeah.
And that seems to be for a lot of folks a signal that, well, what's to come? If this is day 200, I don't even know if it's that far in, what's to come? That makes it a new genre, because we're not looking at where the arrow is. We're looking at where it's aimed at. And it's like, we know it's going to hit much farther than this and that it'll escalate.
Maybe.
But that is different than these are unprecedented times, as opposed to this is a forebearer of unprecedented times.
Yeah, and I don't even necessarily, and the reason why I didn't like what Mark was saying, because like, or even some of FD's points, because saying like, well, the United States has done like bad imperialist shit, I do think is different than stuff domestically. I think they could focus on the fact that this has happened domestically. Again, they sent in like the federal government sent people in during the LA riots in 92. They sent people in during Ferguson. Like they're like, you know what I'm saying? Like that's, and again, I think that we were all in a different space. Like again, a lot of people didn't even follow politics before 2020, and now we're having our situation. So I do get their overall point that the United States is an imperial power. Being an imperial power means that you're often on fuck shit. I think that's different than a domestic agenda being what it is. I also want to continue to stress that something doesn't have to be new to be bad.
Yeah. Continue to press that button 100%.
Let's continue to not normalize this shit. Continue to be loud about how bullshit it is. Something doesn't have to be new to be novel. I mean, new to be novel, new to be bad.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
But I will, like, I'm other than to your point, the way he's talking about it is leaning into some slightly less precedented shit, man. Like, you also got to think about, like, we had a sitting president that was shaking MLK's hand and calling him and shit.
Is that true?
So wait, Lyndon Johnson was a raging open racist.
Okay.
Like,
wait, like, let's his hand and hit a hard R in the same.
He wasn't. That's no. Like he's on. It wasn't at the same time, but he's on record.
Oh, okay. Because the way you described it was just like, yeah.
He's on record saying that he didn't like black people. He's on record saying that this was a strategy. He was like, yeah, I'm about to lock. I'm about to lock in. Yeah, like open, honest, racist.
Okay, that said, I think that, and this is what the thing that I thought as soon as I feel like the slavery and smallpox blankets thing from Mark Lamont Hill was a poor argument, which I give grace for, because it's in the middle of a conversation, you're just thinking of examples. But Mark is quite good at that. I feel like once you're going back to slavery, nigga, like. What are we talking about? Like, if they did slavery again, it would be fair and reasonable for people to say this is unprecedented times. We're doing slavery again. Like, once you're going back that far.
I didn't like his examples, and that's why I've tried to keep mine 20th century. For example, like when the Voters' Rights Act, like my dad was alive. you know what I mean?
I think even like Lyndon is maybe going, like, once we're going back to segregation, it's like once we're going back to periods in time that are kind of universally considered to be like scars on American history by like most people. So like if we're going to Jim Crow or segregation, that like, I think pre-MLK, most people would go, yeah, it was really, really bad that black folks could not drink at a given water fountain. I think once we're going to that, then we're now talking about unprecedented. We're no longer talking about the modern concept of America.
I don't think you're wrong. I just disagree. I think we just both have our opinions on that one. I think there are pros and cons for both stances. I'm of the mindset that, like, my dad was born in the 50s, so like, and like I can call that nigga right now, so I can reference a president that did some shit during his lifetime from that perspective.
Yeah,
like I don't think
my folks
like
went through, segregation in the South and reintegration and like those things as well. So they're not
yeah
foreign. Like I have my great granddad, who I know, he was born a sharecropper. His parents were slaves, so it's like
yes
it's not far removed. But I think that's a different. Like the fact that I know somebody who went through it is different than talking about like that this is a continuation of the current. How do I put it? That this is a continuation of the current thing that we're in.
The way I think about it is you currently have, looking at the average age of a senator, right? You have people that Bernie Sanders was a civil rights activist and that nigga's in office, right? Which means that you also have people in office who could have been on the other side of that are now currently in office. So I don't think that it's far-fetched to talk about that kind of situation. Like we always talk about, like the Jerry Jones, Cowboys picture where he was in that school in Arkansas where like they were reintegrated to schools, and he's like, we got him on film when they marched those students into the Arkansas high schools and like all that kind of shit. So like, I think the reason why I don't discount that is because those people are still around making policy decisions.
Let me maybe make
they're
an
still
adjustment,
impacting.
I think there's just a semantic thing that's getting in the way a little bit here. I think unprecedented is the wrong word. Like people are trying to aim for a word that they mean. I think unprecedented is just the wrong word. Because it's like, if you go far back enough, every horrible thing that you can think of that a nation has done, America has done. Cool. So you're never going to be able to have a conversation about like, is this unprecedented for America? It's like America killed the entire indigenous population of of this land in order to be able to exist as a nation. Cool. Started off insane. I think the conversation is more, is this the end of an era? And the era that we're talking about is contemporary, post-civil rights, post women being able to vote America. So post mid-century America, is that's a chapter? Are we drawing that to a close? I think is what most people mean. And unprecedented is just kind of the wrong word.
I don't think that's even what most people mean, because again, the thing that I'm trying to drive home is I don't think people have a really good sense of things as they were pre their political awakening.
Maybe one adjustment. I think that's one of the things that people mean, because I agree with you about the Reagan shit.
Yeah, but that's why when I typically have these conversations, I typically stop at Reagan, right? Like when we have these conversations, I know I went back to 1910 for the last conversation with American intervention with regime change in Latin America, but that was mostly just because I thought that was a cool fact. Like, if we're going back just to Reagan, right? Like, so, we're fairly contemporary to Reagan. Like, my older sisters were alive during the Reagan era. If you go back to just like the first president Bush in the early 90s, right? Like,
I think those are all good examples. Yeah.
Like this shit is there. But I think that when we have this situation where I truly don't believe that people understand how bad those situations were. Like, I truly don't believe how people realize that. I truly think that people think that because like we had that, and then we had a resurgence of a lot of things that were good for lower income people, but also bad for a lot of lower income people. Like because Reagan fucked us up so bad, Clinton actually still had to cut social welfare programs in order to kind of like right the ship so that we could be solvent as a country. Like, that's what happened. So stuff still got cut, and we did rebound somewhat actually, but not never to the level like of a pre-Reagan level of social welfare programs, that because we just couldn't afford it, because they basically were like him and the first Bush basically were bankrupting the country. And then our good pal W tried to finish the job by running through trust and all that kind of stuff. So I don't think people fully realize how bad shit has gotten from that perspective, because people weren't tracking. And a good example of that is, and I talk about this in previous ones, where build the wall was seen as like during Trump's first administration as like the worst thing ever. And like there are these people talking about, this is stupid. Why are we doing this, wasting all this money?
I never thought, yeah.
When George W. Bush got the exact same amount of money to build what is effectively a wall.
I think it was the rhetoric more than the wall.
On the southern border.
Yeah. Like, so, I don't even know if that's that crazy. Like you have a massive land border. That's not that insane of a thing to do. I think it's the rhetoric that's used that vilifies people who are Mexican. I think that was the main issue. Not main,
which is also why they're probably
bad.
going to lose the election, because like the shit that ICE has done, that they're doing with ICE is bipartisanly unpopular. What people wanted on the right, if you look at it, they don't like immigrants. Let's get it. Let's not get it twisted. Like, they wanted tougher immigration policy. What they wanted was border security. Yeah, that's what they wanted. The motherfuckers wanted clear cut border security. They did not want like
internal domestic
people getting kidnapped off the street by untrained like mass vigilante motherfuckers in the streets. Nobody wanted that. So they're probably gonna fucking lose.
It's a long time before it's a long midterms.
No, man, this shit's like, I've been looking at some maps. It's still gonna be it's gonna be like midterms might not be it, and I don't know what this shit gonna look like in 2028.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you're saying they're gonna lose the election, but I'm like, a lot of shit. If I'm understanding what you're saying, a lot of shit is gonna happen between now and then. That like, I don't think we can make a prediction based off the bullshit that's happening today.
I think that I am concerned about how much damage they can do in the interim. Like, there's certain shit that like, and also I do want to point this out, that even a lot of stuff that was inside like the Big Beautiful Bill, they're currently going through reconciliation on this shit, and like a lot of this, like these deep funding cuts are getting reversed. Like they're already putting this on, like, you know, like, so it's like little shit like that where I'm like, how much of this really is smoke and mirror? Like, I put my conspiracy theory hat on ever so
slightly. They're bullshitting a little bit.
Yeah, because it's like the reconciliation process is not really going well. They're polling horribly. Like, again, he's now put himself in a direct pissing match with the GOP established like leadership. Again, I'm not saying that any of that means that this is like over by any stretch of the imagination. I'm not even calling lame duck, but I'm just harkening back to my initial point. I need a who's really the king moment. Whatever that is, okay. I need a who's really the king moment.
I had one because there's a question that I posed to you before, that at the time we didn't have an answer for, which was, what things, I know Greenland is on the list now, because that's a who's the king moment. What other things that maybe have been talked about either from Trump himself or from others are on your list of this would constitute significantly less precedented times? These are watershed moments that are like, oh fuck, we're taking a step into a very different timeline, or it's kind of taking a step out of the America as we've known it era.
I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, I love Castanet taught us. Sometimes that's the answer. I don't know. Okay, and then the last one is for the pump and dump shit. Just because I saw people mentioning that, like, do you think that's how do you reconcile that in the precedented times argument?
Mm-hmm. What do you mean? Like what? Like the pump and dump shit? What do you mean? Like,
is that unprecedented or is that precedented?
It depends on how you want to characterize that. Are we saying just generally, is it new for United States federal politicians to use their positions to get rich? Because if that's the way we're framing it, then absolutely not. We all know who Nancy Pelosi is.
Pretty common.
Like
in the whole, like everybody's doing that with the stock market shit, is my understanding. But they've already been doing that.
It's a huge like problem. The bipartisan legislation actually stalled, but I'm pretty sure that's actually probably going to pass to stop them from insider trading. Dick Cheney's companies directly benefited from a lot of the actions of the George W. Bush administration. What's the defense contractor? Not defense contractor. The Secretary of State, Robert McNamara made off like a bandit in terms of the war profiteering from that perspective. Like,
isn't he the one everybody says is a war criminal or whatever? Is that who I'm thinking of?
Among others, but he's like the quintessential, like, if you're talking about
like I always hear about.
Like in the modern era, at least. So it's like,
I know you want to see the rest of this episode. You want that full hour, 2 hours of conversation where we get into each of the topics that we just discussed more deeply and in the context of our conversations. You can do that easily by joining as a member of our community. In addition to that, you get access to our Discord server with exclusive access to other sane, like-minded folks to continue the conversation after the podcast cameras turn off. In addition to that, you get discounts on our products like our conversational card games that help, spice up your dinner party. And you support what we do. You allow us to continue making this project and continue bringing you this work. You can join on Patreon or on YouTube to get those benefits. We'll see you soon.
It's a red flag.